Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second session that we have this afternoon. I'm really proud that we managed to convince David Pereira to share his ideas about getting better at product management and, most importantly, about figuring out what is worth building in the first place, because a lot of other things follow suit once you nail that part. And so he will share how to actually become really good at product discovery by avoiding the typical traps that you might step into. David, stage is yours. Please.
Thanks, Stefan, for the introduction. So, product management is something tricky because nobody understands what it is. If you ask 10 people, you get 10 different answers. And I would say if you ask 10 people from the same company, you probably get 10 different answers as well. So, I learned the hard way what doesn't work. And what I'm going to share with you today reflects lessons from my last 17 years, from software engineer to CEO, and many mistakes I did. Because the truth is, for many years, I thought I was a product manager. But in reality, I was just a backlog manager. I mastered the art of writing user stories so precise and beautiful that anyone could implement them. The only thing is that they didn't know the problem they solved. I also had amazing product backlogs with everything business wants. Of course, I didn't know what customers needed. This way, we created many features that customers couldn't care less about. But today, I want to help you understand how to do it differently. And that's what I will share with you. Some common challenge that teams have. So we're going to talk about product discovery and delivery, some things that are helpful, and some stories. So the very first thing is understanding the difference between discovery and delivery. Sometimes I don't even like talking about the discovery and delivery because the thing is, we just need to get the job done. But it's important to understand the elements we need to ensure we can get the job done in a successful way. So when we look at product discovery and delivery, there are two things. And the difference is not that big, but you need both to succeed. Overall, product discovery, it is about uncovering what will help you drive value. And delivery is about producing what creates value. It's kind of when you do product discovery well, you find problems worth solving. And it's not about solving all problems you find, because there are problems that customers don't care about it. Problems that customers care, but you don't know how to collect business value. So you need to have a balance between delivering value to customers and collecting something in exchange for the business. And delivery, it is all about creating this value, realizing that. And it's not only features, because one thing we do need to recognize is that features are means to an end. So the objective is not to have more features. The objective is to have more value, meaning that sometimes we need to remove some features from the product. Yes, that's right. We need to remove the features that distract us. But one thing that is quite shocking is the reality of how product teams work. A very common scenario is something like this. The team will dedicate 9% of their attention towards delivery. So we focus on doing whatever it comes. How do you identify that? You're going to see feature roadmap, everything is based on output. We only talk about output, and that's quite tricky. So what we want to have is something different. We want to have something like this, a better balance. We want to have more discovery than delivery. And then you look at this and say, seriously, are you going to invest this amount of time doing research? That's the very first thing. Discovery is not only research. If I could explain product discovery in a simple way, I would say it is about dropping bad ideas fast enough. So you want to identify the ideas that have the chance of flying so you can invest more in them. So it means you're going to run several product experiments. So that's the reason you invest more time doing discovery than delivery, because you focus on de-risking your product ideas so it makes sense. But the talk of today is about sharing some common mistakes, some challenges we all face. When it comes to challenge, how do you know you are trapped in a delivery practice? Well, if you look at the situation and you say that more features is all that matters, that's a problem. You're going to hear terms like feature factories, that was coined by John Cutler, build trap by Melissa Perry. I call delivery trap. They have the same meaning, but how do you identify? When you look at the team, and it can be multiple teams, here I'm just elaborating one team. If the focus is on delivering more features, that is a sign. We only focus on doing this. And then when you ask who is taking care of the problem space, then you don't know, because nobody's taking care of that. And then there's another polemic thing that happened, which is the use of technical debt. It's evil. Cannot do it. We need to build everything perfect from day one. So everything needs to be perfectly created, because once you put it live, no product manager will allow you to pay the technical debt off. So of course it's a taboo in this situation. And what is success? Of course, it's very simple. It's standard definition of success. Deadlines. So you meet the deadline, everyone is happy. Then you jump to the next, and the next, and the next. So this is a delivery trap. And there is a big problem when you look at this scenario. And the problem is, when everyone focuses on the present, who is building the future? For sure, somebody else, not you, because all your attention is going to the present. So this happens when you're trapped in a delivery focus, or even, I would dare say, obsession. But there's also the other side of the coin, which I call the discovery trap. This happens in different situations. It can happen when they start up or starts growing, become a scale up, and has some excessive funds, or people are introduced to discovery. And I call this one as more data, please. And what is the meaning of that? The meaning is that we are not really willing to make a commitment to deliver something unless the data proves that is relevant. Then we should do that. So how can we identify more elements here? What you notice in this case is that most of the team will be working on discovery, understanding the problem space, running product experiments. There are many product experiments running, and more and more and more. But features will take very long because no one has time for delivery. What matters most is to ensure that you invest your time on the right idea, which you haven't found it yet, because you want to find what is the perfect solution. And there's a reason that many managers dislike the term discovery, because they associate with huge investment of time, or even worse, unnecessarily investment of time. And what you will realize is that when you have an open-ended discovery, then there will be no delivery. And this case is really painful. The other scenario I said, when you focus only on the present, somebody else builds the future. And in this case, you're focusing fully on the future. So the question is, who is building the present? For sure not you, because you're not committing to deliver anything. So how should we solve this equation? You can have either an extreme focus on delivery or discovery, and neither will help you create value. So to solve this, we need to learn to balance. And instead of saying more features, please, or more data, please, what we want to say is more value, please. And how do we do that? Different ways. But in short, we need to make peace with a dual reality. We need to have a balance between problem space and solution space, future and present. So what I like doing is focusing half of the team on problems. So in a team of 6 people, I would say 3 members are gonna invest most of their time in the problem space. And the other half of the team will invest on the solution. But then there's a thing. You may say, but then it creates 2 teams inside one. And it's not the case. I said the team will focus most of the time. And everyone is still accountable end to end. So there is a moment where you connect the problem and the solution and you explore. So there's a lot of interaction on that. So you can understand what works and what doesn't. And the mindset, which is highly important to make this successful, is that you first learn, then you scale. Because when you start with an idea, you don't know if that idea is going to work. So should you invest, go all in into that? It may take you too long to realize it doesn't work. So the question is, how fast can we drop bad ideas? And then we can run product experiments for that. So this balance requires making peace with dual reality. And that's when you organize your energy like this. Part of the team will invest like 3 days a week doing discovery, 2 days delivery, and vice versa. And there will be some intertwined aspects where you will do more discovery. And the reason I say you end up doing more discovery is because you drop many ideas. Many ideas will not even make to delivery because you realize they are not relevant enough. So you can drop them. But how can you do that when everyone pressures you to do more feature? So you need to understand the big picture. And discovery, many people ask me, how do I do discovery with Scrum? How do I do discovery with ShapeUp? Or how do I do discovery with this? Well, that's not a question I like answering because for me, it's like, how do I identify what delivers value and what doesn't? What I call is a journey, and that's what I will share with you. And to understand discovery better, I like an explanation from Marty Kagan. And this is from the first version of his book, Inspired. And I like this very much because it's precise. The purpose of product discovery is to quickly separate the good ideas from the bad. So not all ideas are equal. Some are going to distract you from what really matters. And what is the result of product discovery? Validated product backlog. You know if customers want that. You know if you can collect value from that. You know if you can implement that and if customers would understand how to use it. In other words, you de-risk your product ideas gradually. So that's how you structure. And to apply product discovery well, you need to understand the big picture of the game. And for me, there are just 3 elements that help us do it well. The very first one is the strategy. And the strategy is all about helping you say yes or no to something. A good product strategy simplifies decision making. You know what matters, you know also what doesn't matter. So whenever you are presented an opportunity, you can look at that and say, does this relate to our strategy or does this distract us? If it distracts you, trash bin is your friend, not your enemy. And then you have discovery, which is about uncovering what creates value, and delivery, building what creating value. And this these elements, they are intertwined. So it's not a waterfall. You need each of them to ensure you are successful. So when you align them well, you increase the odds of creating value. When you ignore them, for sure, you're going to have trouble. When I look at this, it reminds me of many trouble I had in my career because it was unclear what was a strategy and I simply didn't apply product discovery. Important to understand is that depending on your scenario, the strategy will evolve faster. In a product that you are trying to bring into the market, you are exploring what works. So strategy adapts faster. Once you start growing, it will be slower. Once you reach maturity, even slower. So it's context related. But if you ignore that, then for sure you're going to have a problem. And discovery done right helps you prevent that. I'll share a quick story with you. Several years ago, when I started my journey as a product manager, was still in Brazil. Not what happened was business struggled a lot with one challenge. Our business was about training the sales force of bigger corporations like Adidas, Philips, Samsung. So we had trainers traveling all over Brazil to train the sales force of these organizations. And the business analysts struggled to consolidate the result of the trainings and share the reports with the customers because every trainer would use a different spreadsheet. And that was very complicated for the business analyst. And then someone had the idea of creating a digital portal. And I said, all right, the training portal sounds interesting. And then I started talking about it. And we got excited about this. And what was the problem I tried to solve? I had a problem in mind, which was the unstructured spreadsheet. So it would be, we would have everything digitally, and then we wouldn't need the unstructured spreadsheet, and the reports could be automatic. We worked on that for about 3 months, design, implementation, testing, and so on. And we loved the solution. We did some user testing with the business analysts and a few trainers who were around São Paulo, where I lived back then. The moment of launching, I decided to go with the business analyst who had the idea to the south of Brazil and present that to 50 trainers. And then what happened was quite interesting. As we started presenting, there was no excitement in the room whatsoever. The trainers looked really skeptical. And then someone broke the ice. And the person asked, how do I use this when I'm traveling? I said, what do you mean by when you're traveling? The person said, I either fly a lot or I drive a lot. And then when I drive with my colleagues, I have the chance of taking the passenger seat and using my laptop to do things. But the problem is that the connection in Brazil is unstable. And when I'm flying, there's no connection. So that's why I use these spreadsheets. And I said, what do you mean by use only when you're traveling? And the person shared, well, that's the only moment I have the time to do this kind of work. And then another trainer, the same for me, mainly when I'm flying. And another trainer said, mainly when I'm taking the bus. And then I realized I didn't explore the real problem space. I fell in love with the solution, ignored product discovery, and we created a solution that solved nobody's problem. Worse than that, it created a problem for us. So we had to hack the solution and find a way to upload the bloody spreadsheet. That took another 6 weeks to figure that out. Not fun. Had we followed the product discovery journey, we would have avoided that very fast. But I didn't. And how can we bring a product discovery journey to your reality? It starts with the goals. What are you trying to achieve? What matters for you right now? Very important to understand the game you're playing. Maybe it's a retention game, maybe it's a growth game, but you need to have a metric you are trying to optimize. But then you say, all right, so if I am trying to optimize conversion rate, then I should just drop the prices and everything will be better, right? It increase immediately. But then something many teams ignore. If you have only the metric you want to optimize, you don't know the whole picture. So which metric do you need to protect, the guardrail metric? And which metric you can, let's say, deteriorate? Which trade-offs you have? I had situations, for example, that our objective was to increase engagement, but during that time, we didn't worry about profitability. So we could increase the costs, but we could not make the satisfaction, the customer satisfaction worse because it was already bad and that would hurt us. So you need to know the trade-offs, the guardrail metrics, and where you're going. And within that, you can start exploring your audience. So understanding your audience. And one aspect very important, get out of the office. Go and meet your audience where they are. If you are working remotely, have interviews, talk to them. You need to understand what is to use your product, what is your audience trying to achieve. And the most important aspect is to understand what is natural for your audience, not rational. Because it's easy for us to create something that is rational, but then it's very hard to convince users to adapt because that's not natural. Once you understand your audience, you are going to uncover what I call value driver. And value driver is anything that is worth investing your time, customers care about, and you can collect business value. You will find different names for that. You're going to find the names as problems, opportunities, but I prefer using the term value drivers for one specific reason. There are too many distractions, and not everything is worth our attention. So if we don't know how something creates value or contributes to it, we should not invest our time into that. So value driver is a reminder that our effort should create impact and we should know how. But then it comes reality of product development. You always have more things that you could work on than capacity. So you do need to prioritize and then you can focus. And prioritize means choosing one thing you want to work on. Priority, singular. So what are the one you are going to bet? But here is a commitment to explore and see if it's worth. Then you may ask me, how do I prioritize? It's more like a bet. So you need to find something that is worth investing the time. I do not recommend having scoring metrics because then you start using the score as a confidence level is the right thing to do. So I recommend a conversation. You look to the opportunities you have, and then you start asking questions like, how many customers would we impact if we address this? How much do they care about this? How satisfied are they with the current alternatives? And how would that help us differentiate? And how much value can we collect from this? And then you understand the opportunities and you compare opportunities against each other and select one thing to start ideating. And then you say, how could we solve this? And ideally, you explore multiple solutions for the same problem. Because if you commit to one single solution, it's very easily to happen like what happened to me. So you start implementing something, you fall in love with that, and then you forget about reality. But if you are trying different solutions, you can compare the results of the solution, and then eventually you ditch the one that is not delivering the result. And that means you deal with assumptions. Assumptions are beliefs we have but lack evidence. I like saying that untested assumptions are the mother of fuck ups. We assume something is going to happen, it doesn't happen, and then we end up crying like I did there in Porto Alegre, Brazil, that we invested so much time on something that nobody could care. Sometimes, depending on the culture of the place you are, it is better to rephrase assumptions as risks. Because some people are more risk averse, then you will gain support to start testing assumptions. For example, instead of saying like these are desirability assumptions we have, you can say these are desirability risks we have. These are viability risks. And then you can deal with the risks. It's a rephrasing for the same thing that will help you do what is necessary to create value. And then as you run product experiments, you can use evidence to progress. And then you may look, how long does it take to run a product experiment? It can be fast. You can run product experiments in hours. It can be in days. What I say is start small. In short, the weaker the evidence, the faster the product experiment, because you want to gain more evidence so you understand if the direction makes any sense at all. And this is a journey. This is not a process. And as a journey, you are the driver. And as a driver, you decide when to go forward, backward, take a right turn, a left turn, when to go backward. Because it can be that you start dealing with the assumptions and you quickly realize that the value driver you prioritize is not as good as you imagine. Then you say, should I continue and implement a solution like Dave mentioned just to put into the trash later? No, just put in the trash right now. You go back, prioritize something else, and then you do it again. So you should decide. This is more fluid. I call this a journey because it has the elements you need. And based on every part you go, you may realize that something should be different, and then you go back and so on. But these elements will help you drop bad ideas fast enough. So here's what we talked overall. These are the 7 elements that will help you. And the very important thing is knowing how to use them. It's not really a process. I cannot give you clarity on how much time you're going to spend on something. I can just give you examples. When I decided to write my book, actually, it was a bit fun what happened. I was not even thinking about writing book. I was thinking about helping teams understand their reality and then uncover what they could do different so they could act right now, acting today for a better tomorrow. So I created a talk called Untrapping Product Teams. And I gave this talk several times. And after some point, many people start asking me about a book, which I was not thinking. But then I start thinking after this request. The very first experiment I ran was to post on LinkedIn that I was writing a book because I want to see the resonance, how people would connect to that. And then I put a survey link that I wanted to see if people would commit a little bit, share some information with me. So share their email and say, I want to hear more about it once you have it, and to share the pains they faced. And then I identified some patterns with this. This experiment took a few hours. And then after that, I interviewed a few people, which took another few hours. I identified several challenges people had. So I wrote a guide about strategy and put on my newsletter. This took a few days. But then I started seeing what helped people, what challenge they had, and how I could craft a book. So I did that in a very iterative way. So I didn't commit to writing the book immediately. I first did product discovery to understand how I would frame the book and what would make sense for people. So how can you succeed with product discovery? To succeed with product discovery, the very first thing is understanding your reality. What is happening? Then once you understand reality, you can change it, make it better. So I like using a health check, and I do that with teams. I look at them and I ask, like, how do you use your value proposition? If you realize you don't have a value proposition, that's an opportunity. Or if you use it and it helps you accelerate decision making, that's great. What about customer interviews? Data can show you many things, but alone is not enough. You don't need to talk to customers because some things data is not going to tell you. But talking to customers is also not enough. They need to create insights. And then, whenever you choose to do something, how do you identify assumptions? Or you just ignore them? And how do you test them? And then ideation. If you run an ideation, do you define only one solution, go all in, or do you define at least two or even three, and then you try from different angles and you commit to the one that delivers the most value? And to make your life easier, let me give you the checklist I use for product discovery. When you have a product tree, you set it up. If it is not a product manager, designer, software engineer, you need three different people generally, three different disciplines. That helps. This is the most common one, but sometimes you may see that with some data analysts, you may see that with some growth person. It depends on your scenario, but three is a good number. And if you say, what about two? It's better to have three because it's like two to disagree, one to referee, so you can make decisions faster. You need to have room to talk to business, agree on desired outcome, frequent alignment. And you see, I use the word alignment here because you need to be on the same page where you're going. And develop a routine to gain insights. I said the data is not enough, but you should still look at data. I didn't say you should ignore. Look at data, talk to customers, and share what you learned with your stakeholders. Focus on the problem space. Focus on the things that you realize that they are not worth your energy. Share that as well. And then share the insights with the whole team. And then you select some value driver one at a time, explore different solutions, name the assumptions you have. If assumptions don't fly in your scenario, rephrase that, reframe it, use it as risks. Then you run experiments to de-risk your product idea. And then you rinse and repeat. When you have these elements in place, chances are high that you drop bad ideas fast enough. Here is the foundation, I would say. Of course, you have to adapt to your scenario, but this is like the simple. And many times our job is to simplify what gets unnecessarily complicated. So you need to look at your scenario and say, what I could do different from now on. And then you avoid the traps I had in my scenario. And regardless the situation you are, you can always decide which role you want to play. Because you can look at the cards you don't have and complain about them. And you complain about all the cards you don't have, and then you fold the game you don't play. Or you look at the cards you have and to say, what is the best move I can do right now? Then I do something about it and I keep moving. If everything I shared, you say it's missing something, I don't even know where to start, I tell you. You don't need to ask for any permission to name assumptions. You can just do it. You name assumptions and then you can start testing them. And then you talk about results. So it's about taking action. So you can act today for a better tomorrow. That's what I had to share with you today. I really appreciate. We will have some time for Q&A.
Seriously, you're excellent at this.
Nice.
Okay, we have three questions. So the first one, isn't discovery delivery balance dependent on the cost of making a mistake? For example, if cost is low, you build a lot and you remove what is not working. If cost is high, you spend more on discovery and research and build only the things with high potential.
It's a valid point. So sometimes I say, if delivering something is cheaper than discovering, just deliver and learn from results. And I like looking at the balance very much in this direction. The more complicated something is to create, the more you need to invest into discovery. So that's what I try to do. But you still need to be careful about delivering without evidence, because it's not because you could do something that you should do. So discovery helps you understand what makes sense. But sometimes just do it and see what happens. If it's that simple, I recommend trying that out.
Hey, there is another question. In your approach, half the team primarily focuses on problems and the other half on solutions with some overlap. However, within these domains, different topics may require different expertise in team setups. Do you see value in dynamically shifting team members between these subgroups based on evolving needs? How would you manage this movement while maintaining team cohesion and effectiveness?
Yes, I see value in doing that. So one thing I like doing lately more and more is to have what I call as flow teams. So we look at the domain space we want to work, and we say who would be the best people to work on that. And then we define these people to work on this and share with the others. The core to keep cohesion, it is about the accountability and and the continuous interaction with the team. So I have experience within the flow team. You define a domain and how much time you're investing, and then you share with the rest of the team. And then this flow team may change again, depending on the domain. Initially, I was skeptical about the fluidity of the team, but I was quite surprised on how fast people could adapt to working with each other in this way. I haven't faced exactly issues, but I have faced growth because team had the chance of working with different people and they could learn from each other. That's what I experienced with what I call as flow teams.
Question number 3. Could you give an example of product discovery journey for an internal product team, such as a data platform team? How do you adapt the product journey to when your audience is internal and actually internal product teams?
With internal product teams, it's a bit different in terms of the collaboration, but it still would benefit from understanding what is the objective as of now. Because internally, you can have focus on increasing productivity, on reducing, for example, mistakes, and improving decision making. What are you trying to optimize for? This is a valid conversation. So you can filter out ideas. It's very important in product to figure out how you filter out ideas. And an internal driven, one of the risks is becoming a very quick feature factory because it's everything internal, and then the users tell you what to do exactly, and then you may think, let's just build it and see what happens. But I still see the need of doing things together, like prototyping together. You involve more the users as your stakeholders, business partners as well, on the journey. So that's the biggest difference. So your users might be also your business partners when it's internal. So it's more like an involvement and still trying to clarify what is the need for us, what are we trying to achieve, and what should we do. The involvement is what I see the biggest difference in comparison to users, because there's more co-creation.
Okay, and then there's one question left. How do you avoid that during product discovery the knowledge becomes hard to share between tech team members? Is good documentation the only solution for this challenge?
The knowledge sharing, and let's say not only sharing, but keeping the history of everything you learn is something hard. I don't think anyone has solved that in a good way. The way there are two aspects. I like removing the silo between tech and product. So I found it very important to share and keep in the same group. That's the first part, increasing collaboration and sharing. Because I also like engineers to be product engineers, making product decisions. So for me, product people should lead by context, and context means sharing what they learned from the problem space. That's one part. The second part is about how you store the learnings. What I like doing is having a story mapping with a user journey there, very clear of your product, how it is. And for the experiments you're running, for everything related to product discovery, you can have a card related to that. And then behind that card, you have all the experiments you run and the history of that. So I like having it easy to find based on the experience. Because let's say in the future, if you take an e-commerce as an example, you are going to do something in the product detail page. Maybe someone has already done that, you just don't know. So what has anyone else tried? So what I like, go to this user story journey, then you look at there, and then you say, aha, so here are the experiments they already tried in product detail page, and those are the results. Then you say, there's something here we didn't try, maybe I can try that. Because if you don't have a structured way and a simple way of finding the knowledge, it's inevitable you're going to run the same experiment in a different way. So finding the minimum structure is very important.
David, that was awesome. Thank you so much for leading us through the reasonable setup of discovery and not just frantically throwing things at the wall to see what sticks and declare it's product discovery. Right?
That's great.
Yeah.
And I have something for those watching.
Yeah, excellent.
I also have a self-paced course, product discovery, and I call this one as product discovery done right. So it's about 4 hours of everything I learned about product discovery. You can get a discount there if you use the voucher Bulletproof PM. You have the link here of this course, and if you like it, you can just try it out. I would say that this is a course I wish I had before I created many things nobody used. That's why I created this course to help people drop bad ideas fast enough. Hope you like it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for sharing your expertise with the community and spend your time with us.
Thanks a lot. All the best, everyone. Thanks, Stefan.